Arsenal travel to Atletico Madrid on Wednesday for the first leg of their Champions League semi-final. Mikel Arteta's side are eyeing a League and European Cup double to round off what would be a superb season, but some top-tier opponents still stand in their way for both trophies. The Gunners regained top spot in the Premier League over the weekend with a nervy 1-0 win over Newcastle United. The North Londoners had been knocked off their perch over a rocky run of form that saw Manchester City reel in their 9-point lead at the summit, and Pep Guardiola's men nipped above their rivals with a 1-0 victory at Turf Moor last week. City's FA Cup commitments saw the mantle handed back to Arsenal, who took advantage to snap their winless run. Atleti, meanwhile, are putting all their eggs in the European basket this term, with Diego Simeone making wholesale changes to his sides in La Liga. Barrios was forced off in the La Liga win over Athletic Club, while Lookman did not make the squad for the game at the weekend. Barrios suffered a thigh injury, according to the club, while Lookman was struggling with a knock he picked up in the Copa del Rey final defeat by Real Sociedad. The winger is more likely to return against Arsenal than Barrios is, however, and defender David Hanko is also expected to remain sidelined. As for the Gunners, Eberechiez was forced off against Newcastle, following Kai Havertz onto the treatment table after the German 33rd minute withdrawal at the Emirates Stadium. There was a further boost as Bukayosaka returned from his long layoff off the bench, while Ricardo Calafiori is thought to be nearing a return and could feature in Spain. Jurriën Timber has not played for his club for a month now after suffering a groin injury, and there are still no indications on when he might make a comeback. Mikel Merino has been out since the new year with a stress fracture in his foot and is pushing for a return before the season is out. Both sides not renowned for their attacking styles of play. This could be a tough watch at the Metropolitano. Simeone will, of course, field his rigid 4-4-2, while Arteta and co. will likely lean on their set-piece prowess again. It doesn't feel like a game that will have many goals. How will the Gunners deal with the hostile Atleti atmosphere? When the draw was made for the latter stages of the Champions League, Arsenal were considered big favourites to reach the semis before things would get trickier, with a likely meeting against Barcelona. But while the Gunners kept up their end of the bargain, that Barca semi-final showdown failed to emerge after the Catalans were shocked 3-2 on aggregate by La Liga rivals Atletico Madrid. Arsenal hammered Atleti 4-0 at the Emirates in the group stage, so the door to the final in Budapest looks wide open for Mikel Arteta's side. Then again, anyone writing off Diego Simeone's men does so at their peril, and that one-sided meeting in London back in October could prove meaningless. Midfielder Pablo Barrios has been ruled out of both legs after sustaining a hamstring injury on his return to the side at the weekend. Ademola Lookman, Jose Gimenez and David Hanko are all doubts for the hosts. Eberechiez, Arsenal's match winner against Newcastle at the weekend, was withdrawn after 53 minutes of that narrow 1-0 victory with a muscle injury, but should be okay to feature again. Kai Havertz lasted just over 30 minutes of the Newcastle game before being taken off, and must be a major doubt. Victor Gyökeres looks all set to step in. Arsenal are narrow 13/8 favourites to win the match and put themselves in prime position for the second leg on home soil. Atleti are 7/4 to win, while a draw on the night is 11/5. The Gunners are clear favourites to make the final and trade at just 1/2 in the two qualify market. Atletico are 13/8 to go through. In the outright tournament betting, Arsenal are 9/4 second favourites behind 7/4 Bayern Munich. PSG are 5/2 to retain the trophy, while Atletico Madrid are the 7/1 outsiders. Atletico Madrid v Arsenal prediction. Arsenal showed some welcome positive intent in defeat against Manchester City before rather going back into their shell the narrow 1-0 win over Newcastle. In other words, given the final scorelines, Arteta has every reason to resort to type and play the percentages here. That means defensive solidity first, and having only beaten Sporting 1-0 over 2 legs in the quarter-finals, the Gunners' boss would absolutely take a repeat here. The fascinating twist is that Atleti are not the defensive unit they once were. Their games are now riddled with goals, and a more open game will suit them. Arsenal aren't in the sort of form they were when hammering the Spaniards at the Emirates, but they remain hard to beat. Taking everything into account, the 1-1 scoreline at 11 halves appeals most. It keeps the tie in the balance, and Atleti are still very capable of going to Arsenal in the second leg and winning.